Video games have been at the heart of controversy for years. They've been blamed for everything from shootings to bad grades to your parents' divorce. It's not uncommon for video games to be painted as the devil, but never before did it reach levels like it did in 2005 with GTA San Andreas and the Hot Coffee mod. I am the captain of this vessel. I'm Charles, and today I'll be taking you deep into the depths of a controversy so legendary that it is still talked about to this day and was nearly responsible for the eradication of video games as a whole. We nearly lost this sacred treasure. Join me today as we spread apart these ass cheeks and dive deep into the Hot Coffee mod history. So what was the Hot Coffee mod? The Hot Coffee mod was a hidden minigame found within GTA San Andreas. This minigame involved sex, an unexplored taboo topic in the 2005 era. By today's standards, this doesn't look that impressive. It's two fully clothed models with maybe like 20 polygons total making them up. It looks like a bad Roblox mod doing WWE wrestling moves in the bedroom. But in 2005, this was proof that gamers were spitting in the face of God. This was fucking blasphemous back then. This wasn't the first of its kind. God of War 2 also did something similar. However, this was the straw that broke the camel's back. With GTA's Hot Coffee mod and this simulated sex scene... Damn. That guy's fucking cruising, though. Just the fact that it was in 2005, that this had a pretty profound effect. And a lot of fear was driven into the hearts of parents that didn't really monitor their children's behavior. So there's a huge hoopla about it, which is odd because in 2005 we were just beginning to explore the possibilities with online pornography. It was very hypersexualized at the time. Men in 2005 saw more titties than any of their ancestors previously thanks to the ease of access to such content, but it had never really leaked into video games where most parents would just give their kids a game and just ignore them. Now they felt like they had some level of responsibility, God forbid, to actually monitor and see what their children were consuming, and the Hot Coffee mod put a lot of fear in their hearts. In 2005, the 38-year-old modder Patrick W. from the Netherlands shared with the world the Hot Coffee mod. It was unlike anything we'd ever seen before. This was like a unicorn. It was absolutely fucking magical, and that's because it wasn't really a mod. It was in the game. What Patrick did was he changed a 0 to a 1, which re-enabled its existence in the code. So he basically just flipped the light switch and turned it on, and then you got to have horribly animated, penetrative sex with whoever you were going on that date with. After news of this discovery broke to the world, it was more impactful than if we had found Atlantis. Everyone picked up on the story with an absolute mass panic. Parents losing their fucking minds, thinking that there were hidden things like this in all of the video games their children were consuming. This was sex hidden in my mature-rated game that my son was playing. My God, what else is in there? And this led to huge panic, and Rockstar themselves had to come out and do the best they could to stop this storm of shitty parenting. Rockstar initially tried lying. They said that this didn't exist in the game, and they were disgusted that this modder, this hacker who could probably steal all their bank account information if he wanted to, would do something so horrendous and so just disgusting to put sex in their video game. They came out and condemned it and pretended like they didn't know what it was. They said that it was all Patrick W. who put this here. It was his creation, his baby. Rockstar had nothing to do with it. They were victims of this heinous crime. But then after the ESRB got involved, they then had to kind of backpedal in order to avoid further huge problems and legal ramifications. They had to come out and admit that no, this is a feature that existed in the game that they thought was turned off for good. This led to ESRB pressuring them and eventually led to them re-rating the game as an adult-only game. It was discovered that the same effect could be achieved in the original console ports of the game using simple third-party software. So some shit like Game Genie, Game Shark, Turbo Gamer Extreme, fucking GameFAQs cheat codes. It wasn't hard to access even on the console. It wasn't limited to just Patrick's supercomputer of hacking in his galaxy brain. ESRB, of course, had to reevaluate their rating on the game after this discovery and deemed that this would be an adults-only game, which meant that GameStop had to remove the game from their shelves along with every other retailer that refused to carry adult-only games, which ended up costing Rockstar and the parent company Take-Two over $150 million in profit and the recall of the product from the shelves. So this happened over 15 years ago. So before we can really get into the effect this had on gaming as a whole, it's important again that we analyze the time period. 2005 was very different than the time period we exist in currently, where everything is fucking horrible. Back then, it was very different. Everything was new. The internet was just beginning to take off. People were just understanding how things worked in the wild world of the cyberspace. Memes didn't even really exist back then. There's like a single fucking meme with like a baby dancing. It was a very different time period, so people reacted differently to something as simple as fully clothed sex. Like, the sex depicted in the Hot Coffee mod looks like a child playing with action figures. It doesn't even go over emotional impacts involved with sex, such as the crying that ensues afterwards and all of the scarring. It's a very different and very juvenile look at sex, but back then this was enough to set most parents off, especially because they feared what other things were hidden in their video games. And in particular, the group that was most offended by this was the religious groups. Up until this point, they didn't set their sights too hard on video games as this vessel of evil. They weren't fans of video games, but up until this point, they were relatively quiet in their distaste for them. But once it broke that there was this unholy act of premarital sex, they decided to sharpen their pitchforks and really go after it, as did the media. So GTA San Andreas was the poster child to serve as this example of evil video games and the horrible things that go into them. And Grand Theft Auto as a series was no stranger to the limelight of controversy. GTA 3 had multiple controversies involving the prostitutes in the game, which players had the option to kill if they wanted to, since it's a sandbox game, so they could hit prostitutes with their car and shit like that, which was a big deal. And that controversy carried over to their next game, Vice City. I very distinctly remember Vice City having multiple news segments about how it was corrupting the youth and turning them into maniacs and serial killers. So these weren't out of nowhere. Rockstar had been down this path before, but never to this extreme where the game was actively being investigated, re-rated in this capacity. And all because of a piece of hidden content, a goofy little minigame that was probably put in there as a joke, considering how little effort went into it. So the question needs to be asked, why was this minigame still in the code? It would have been a pretty easy solution to just delete it. It's like a simple line of code. I can't imagine that it was a huge, arduous task to just remove it. Why was the solution that Rockstar came to just turning it off? Kind of. So there's a few theories here, and not to go full Alex Jones on you, but I'll choose the most sane ones. The first theory is that game development being as complicated as it is and an ever-changing process, it could have just been overlooked. It could have at one point been a core part of the game that Rockstar wanted to include, but just never got around to fully fleshing out, so they just decided to scrap it and hide it. This makes a lot of sense because games change a lot, and Rockstar was constantly pushing the boundaries. They did it every release. GTA 3, absolutely massive, completely different from the previous entries, the first foray into 3D adventure, and really one of the most influential sandbox games ever. Then they go to Vice City, where they amped it up even further and doubled down on the controversial elements. And then San Andreas, maybe they wanted to be even edgier, fucking push the boundaries even harder. It's not a phase, Dad, and go in hot and just have penetrative sex, which they didn't fully realize in time by the deadline. And there's actually pretty concrete evidence to suggest that this was the cause. They didn't have enough time to flesh it out, and they just needed to get the game out on time. There is an email that has been surfaced from co-founder of Rockstar, Sam Houser. In the email he says, "We locked it," referring to hot coffee, "away because there was no other way to get the game done on time. Safely." That's weird phrasing. It makes it sound like the whole office was like in danger, like there's fucking dynamite planted under the building if they didn't get it shipped in time. The code is very interwoven in, and everything reacts to everything else. The impact of yanking something late is too scary. I'm not a game developer, but that seems like a pretty shitty excuse. It's not like a fully fleshed out game, but I don't know. This is the email, and it does sound believable if it's like the worst coding of all time. So it is possible that it was there, and then when they were ready to ship, they couldn't finish it, and if they took it out, it would have damaged the product as a whole, affecting other things, like maybe gravity wouldn't work if they didn't have this hidden minigame in there. In another leak, Super Sexy Sam had messaged Rockstar's operational director Jennifer Colby, expressing his disappointment that the sex minigame was poised to be cut from the game, saying, "In GTA San Andreas, we are keen to include new functionality and interaction in line with the vibe of the game." This guy's a pioneer using vibe back then, Jesus. "In addition to the violence and bad language, we want to include sexual content, which I understand is questionable to certain people, but pretty natural, more than violence, when you think about it and consider the fact that the game is intended for adults. I know this is a tricky area," he concluded, "but I want to find a way for this to work." You can see how bad they wanted to fuck in this game. And you can really see just how incompetent they were at capturing it with the minigame. But the heart and the passion was there. They clearly wanted this as a feature in the game. Colby responded, stating that the ESRB would most certainly give San Andreas an adult-only rating, which would hurt 80% of their distribution options at the time. So finally, Sam said, "The cuts are everywhere. It didn't feel like we were pushing any boundaries now. Why bother? I really do not want to change this stuff. It feels so wrong at the behest of psychotic Mormon capitalist retailers." Sam's kind of going in. Sam's starting to fucking feel himself here. He wants to fuck in his games, but he feels like his hands are tied by society. We are prisoners of the societal standards that forbid us from seeing sex in GTA San Andreas at this time, and Sam laments this fact. And a month after the console launch, Sam sent another email, and this time the game's producer Leslie Benzies in regards to the PC version, in which he said, "Explore any additional content ideas. See how hard we can push the sex stuff to make it bonkers." Fucking Godspeed, Sam. That's exactly what we needed. A man with a pure passion for pussy and penis in the bedroom of GTA San Andreas. This was a guy, a pioneer, an innovator, who wanted sex in his game so desperately, and whose heart was broken when he couldn't have it. It seems like he's the only one on the people's side here at the company, constantly lobbying to push the envelope and make it as bonkers as possible. And unfortunately what we got was anything but bonkers. The plan was to release two versions of GTA on PC, an M-rated version and an adults-only version with even more depravity, with the promise, "Yes, we will go to places you other fucks wouldn't even consider." This Sam guy's fucking awesome. I mean, he wanted to be unique, and I think in the end he did get there, just not in the way he would have liked. I think the idea of having an M-rated version, an adults-only version, is at least interesting, albeit kind of dumb. After some inter-office uneasiness with the sales team, they ultimately decided to port the PS2 version and ship the game as is, but with a proposed plan to unlock the darkness. Someone put Sam in horny jail. This poor guy, man. All he wanted was sex in his game. And what did he get? Blasted by the media? Framed as some kind of evil, perverted devil? I think Sam was done dirty here. He wanted to deliver something unique to the people, and he knew what the people wanted. He wanted those honkin' bonkers in his game, and he wanted you to be able to experience it in the way that he intended. But unfortunately, we didn't get there, and Sam's legacy is forever a bit tarnished, but at least these emails surfaced to show that he was the hero all along of this anime. But the most interesting part about this is the modders had known about the minigame for months leading up to the PC release, because they'd already been poking around the PS2 files and found references to the locked out content. So that means the modders were already kind of in the know and just needing a way to access it, which they were finally able to get when it came to PC. They kept quiet about it in the hopes that Rockstar would do exactly what they did, touch nothing from the original release with the sexual content still intact. The modders played them like a fiddle. Their bet paid off, and the San Andreas first mod was released before the original modder even had a copy of the game. In response, Sheriff Sam Hauser said, "They found it. This cause any problems? Hope not, as it's pretty cool." And Sam was right. It is pretty cool. Sam doesn't seem too bothered by it, although the outrage and what would eventually happen probably put a bit of a damper on his fun. But at least Sam finally got to share at least a part of his vision with the world through this mod. And he was obviously delighted that the world could see his creative vision jam itself back and forth into another consenting adult. But was this his plan all along? I don't think so. I think he would have liked to have his name put on it, like, this is a Sam Hauser original. I fought for this, as he's pumping his fists in the air, celebrating. But Rockstar went on the offensive and tried to blame modders, and they put all of the onus on them. They were the wrongdoers, they were the supervillains, Rockstar was innocent, until eventually all of these emails leaked, and they eventually had to be very forthcoming with the information, because it was a big PR disaster. Even Rockstar admitted fault, saying that blaming it on hackers was a colossal PR screw-up. It was a complete disaster. They lied. And ultimately, Take-Two settled the inevitable securities class action lawsuit, paying over $20 million. The U.S. Senate got involved in another attempt to demonize video games and enact stricter regulations, and the ESRB was then forced to tighten their rules, putting Rockstar on notice. Any findings of future hidden content would result in FTC fines of $11,000 per violation, and that still exists to this day. If there is hidden content, the ESRB must be made aware of it. I don't think it's had a huge effect on games, because I don't know how many games are hiding like fully clothed sex scenes, but it is still worth noting that this is still in effect to this day. And because of these guidelines, content like locked out DLC is usually discovered in games like Smash Bros. Due to internal ESRB leaks. It's not a huge deal, but you can imagine Nintendo isn't too happy about shit like that when their roster's getting leaked, because the bad boy the gaming industry wanted sex in his video game.
I'd also like to quickly add that there was a class action lawsuit in New York filed by a woman named Florence, who was an 85-year-old grandmother who purchased a game for her 14-year-old grandson and claimed that it was guilty of deception, false advertising, fraud, and abuse. Florence said, "Hold my adult diaper, I see an opportunity for some big bucks," and with little dollar signs in her eyes like Mr. Krabs, she fucking hopped on this train and went in on San Andreas for this hot coffee mod. If Florence is still alive into her hundreds, she's probably still smiling about this. She struck while the iron was hot. She came in and flopped her titties right on the legal table and took it to Rockstar. And then also there was a large protest organized by a group called the Peaceholics, which sounds like a cult that would exist in the GTA universe. I just wanted to point that out because the name Peaceholics is really intimidating. Like, that's some hardcore shit right there. And Rockstar was in their crosshairs.
San Andreas, best-selling PS2 game of all time, only game to go where no virtual penis has gone before, right in our faces at our own home. Not only a great game, but a game that pushed boundaries and pushed back against a society that was unwelcoming to cyber sex. Virtual fake characters engaging in sex in the cyberspace. So there you have it. That's the story of Rockstar's hot coffee mod. And that's about it. About to fucking sail out of here now. I'm your Captain Charles, signing off, and we'll see you next time. How does this seat go down? Yeah. Oh, I'm on at ground level.
I was going to wait a little bit longer before fully diving in on this, but I've talked about it on stream, tickling the subject here and there, with Elon Musk's weirdest lie so far about being a Path of Exile 2 top player. For as long as I can remember, Elon has always touted himself as basically a gaming god, where anytime he picks up the sticks, he becomes one of the best to ever do it. And he's been trying that with Path of Exile 2, puffing out his chest, popping his collar, letting people know that he has one of the top characters in the game. Which he does, except it's very clear from the live stream he did, it's not actually his character. He has one or a team of people that actually pilot this character, and they just give him permission to go on the account to flex it. It's not a hurricane machine conspiracy theory. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt true that Elon Musk does not play this game. His account that he showed is definitely not played by him. And it's very clear through the live stream, which we'll go through in a moment, because Quinn made a great video breaking it all down to show just how obvious it is.
So let's start off with some context. Elon Musk's character is currently level 97, aka rank 12 on hardcore, that's permanent death mode. Currently, what is their highest ranked player? They're level 97, same as Elon Musk. So, I mean, he effectively has been playing, pretty much just doing nothing except playing Path of Exile. So let's just go over some of the things that happened.
The reason I wanted to wait a little longer before diving into the spaghetti and meatballs of this is because I wanted to see Elon's response to it, because I know he's seen it. He is more addicted to social media than an Overwatch gooner. He is glued to this shit 24/7, so I am confident he is well aware that the entire gaming community is privy to his fraudulent claims of being one of the top Path of Exile players, and I just wanted to see how he would tackle that. because his responses are always glorious. It's always the most cringe shit imaginable, where he posts like an AI photo of himself as Iron Man. I am Irony Man. You call yourself the Joker, yet you can't take a joke. Ironic. And I wanted to see him do some garbage like that for this, but he hasn't yet, and I just really want to talk about it because it is so clownish.
And he opens up his bank, and he goes to a tab called Elon's Maps, which immediately is a little bit of a red flag because I don't know why you would refer to yourself in third person, but okay, he does that. He then proceeds to walk up to his map device and go to put a map in. The literal first thing you learn upon getting to the end game is how to operate this map device. You're going to start off at a node, and then from that node, you can go to adjacent connected maps. Now, Elon, he's trying to click.
Oh, he's trying to do the map that's not in the chain.
He's just clicking a map repeatedly, trying to access it. He was not eligible to enter that map.
I just want you guys to understand, this is one of the highest level hardcore characters in the game. He would have played thousands of maps at this point.
I don't know how many of you have ever subjected yourself to the torture of trying to watch an Elon Musk stream, but they are agonizing when he tries to stream a game. Because it's like 30 minutes of actual nothing burgers where he will sit there, AFK, and all you get is just background noise. The banging of pans sounds like shit falling over. It's like listening to Legos exploding, and then he'll like occasionally talk, and he's still doing nothing, and then maybe he'll do like briefly one map. Watching Snoop Dogg stream when he left and just left it running for like a day was more entertaining than trying to sit through an Elon Musk Twitter stream. They're fucking brutal. So Quinn, going through this, cut out a lot of that, and when he's actually trying to play the game, he doesn't know what he's doing. So what he's showing here is he has that tab called Elon's Maps, which is a weird thing to do, but he's a quirky guy. Maybe he refers to himself in the third person. You could maybe try and conjure up some kind of argument there, because he is just so peculiar as an individual that he would do that. But the big smoking gun in this intro is that he doesn't even know how to use the in-game map. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, I'm not even to that point in the game, yet looking at that map, I can tell you what is and is not accessible just through the basic understanding of how games work. He is clicking on a grayed out node. He is repeatedly clicking on it, expecting something different to happen. It's fucking grayed out, goofball. You clearly can't go there yet. But he doesn't understand it.
Anyone who's level 97 is... And you know, we're talking one of the most efficient players in the game, period. There is no way you would do that. Why just like sitting there like some sort of geriatric old man clicking this node, expecting something to happen, and then he finally kind of gives up after a while and then realizes his mistake. We then get a look at his inventory. So Elon Musk is stuck going into the map and with full bags. If you're an efficient player, you're going to clear a map, you're going to loot the valuable items,
and you're going to sell the trash, keep the good stuff, salvage the bad stuff. Everyone knows that. It's not just being an efficient player, it's just being a player in general. Elon Musk goes into it with a full inventory. You don't have to be a Path of Exile player to know that that's pretty stupid. If you're playing a game that revolves around getting loot, why would you go in with no ability of collecting loot? It doesn't make sense. Unless, of course, you're Elon, who doesn't actually play the game and can't wrap his head around that concept that, you know, having a full inventory kind of defeats the whole purpose. You'd want to get rid of your trash. Or if all of that is just treasure, just absolute beautiful loot you don't want to part with, you'd put it in your stash. You wouldn't take it into the map with you because you need the space in your inventory. That is like actual basics. And he's already failing on the most fundamental aspects of playing not only this game, but any games even similar to it. It's actually a rookie mistake that I myself was making when I was first starting this game, where I was just taking unnecessary shit with me. I didn't realize just how quick and easy it was to just go store it or sell it. You can just click a single button, it'll make a portal to the town, and you can just sell it and then go right back through that portal to where you were. You don't lose any time or anything. It's not a hassle or a chore. And it's something that once you start playing the game, you become privy to. But Elon Musk doesn't really play this game, it seems. Yet, somehow has one of the top accounts in the whole fucking hardcore space. How odd.
So what I'm doing here is just boosting my shield before battle via meditation. Meditation before battle is always good.
And he starts killing monsters. He starts obliterating monsters with his character. But what becomes obviously apparent
Chaos Orb, no
His
loot
loot
filter.
filter is like, no, he's just running past Chaos Orbs. He just ran past the Chaos Orb.
Chaos Orbs are one of the most important currencies, and they're also really rare. I have about 140 Exalts. I have like 9 Chaos Orbs, just so you guys understand.
This fucking goober doesn't even have the wherewithal to loot one of the most valuable currencies in the game with a Chaos Orb. So I'm 30 hours deep. I've seen one. I've seen one in 30 hours. And he just runs right by it. He doesn't know the game at all. The only thing he loots are completely meaningless waystones. They're not fully meaningless, but for where he's at in the game, it's not what you'd be prioritizing for loot. But the reason he's clicking the waystones is because those are what's highlighted. Meanwhile, Chaos Orb wasn't highlighted, so in Elon Musk's little, like, caveman brain, not shiny, not need. So he just ignores it. He doesn't know the game.
It's unfathomable for someone to be in the top ranks without a loot filter. Yet Elon Musk, the god gamer, he doesn't play with a loot filter. The only thing Elon does pick up are maps, because the default in-game loot filter highlights those. Those things are worthless. The actual items of value that he should be picking up, that he would have had to pick up in order to get the gear, leave it on the ground. He gets to the boss, he's fighting the boss, and I want to say for about 10 seconds, he sits there and he's out of mana. Mana is a resource in this game where you need it in order to use your abilities. He just sits there, default attacking the boss without activating his mana flask. Anyone who's played the game and understands the character would understand, like, oh, I'm not doing any damage because I'm out of mana.
There's no explanation for him being bad at this character at this level. If he was the one that has been piloting it this whole journey, he would have mastered it. And what Quinn is pointing out is that he clearly hasn't. You can tell from his gameplay. When he's fighting this boss here, he is out of mana for an inexcusably long period of time. In Path of Exile 2, if you go out of mana, if you play League of Legends, you can immediately pop a mana flask and get it back to continue optimizing your DPS. He doesn't do that. His character is juiced out the wazoo, so he's able to get away with being so dog shit. But the fact that he doesn't pop his mana flask for like 10 seconds is crazy to me. And anybody who plays the game. It's not him being some kind of chess master galaxy braining this where he's being frugal with his mana. Well, actually, I made a calculation that it would be suboptimal if I had popped one of my fucking 20 mana flasks at this moment, because you wouldn't understand. I'm one of the top players in the game. I'm thinking, well, 5 steps ahead of you. It's just him just being bad. It's him being bad at this character, because it's not really his character. Whoever is piloting this account behind the scenes and boosting it lets Elon go on and do these really easy maps where even when he's super shit, he can get away with being bad and not be punished for it.
He then goes on to loot items off the ground. He starts dragging them into his bag. Like, I don't even know how to describe to you how painful that is to anyone who actually plays the game. And his bags are full and he just keeps clicking it over and over and over again. Nobody, not even people who are kind of noobs at the game, do this. I don't even think Elon Musk has done the campaign, honestly.
I also don't think he's finished the campaign, and I'm going to go a step further. I don't think he has ever really played an ARPG to a high level at all, including Diablo. Nobody, I mean actually nobody, is going to drag their loot into their bag once they spend any amount of hours in Path of Exile or Diablo or anything. No one's going to be doing that. That is a mistake that only your grandpappy would make if you sat him down to play this game, where you just slowly drag in the loot. Nobody fucking does that. So I really question the authenticity of his claims of being one of the top Diablo players through his own sheer blood, sweat, tears, and elbow grease and cum. I think something similar has been happening for him on Diablo, where he has people behind the scenes playing the game for him, and then he just goes on occasionally to do a couple maps to flex on Twitter streams.
You're also an innovator there.
Yeah, I've played a lot of video games.
You think about like StarCraft, any game where a lot of people are playing, to rise to the top, you have to be exceptional, period, as a human being.
Yeah.
There has to be something exceptional about you.
Yeah.
Are you in the top 20 in the world, or top 20 wow, in Diablo?
Yeah.
A ton of people are calling this into question now after watching the Path of Exile stream, because those are transferable skills. If you're really good at Diablo, you should at least be pretty good at Path of Exile. And he's just not. And he lacks the basic understanding of ARPG fundamentals. So how the fuck could he be one of the top Diablo players and be this clueless for Path of Exile? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't compute.
His settings on the map transparency are turned on by default. His life values are turned on. All these basic settings that anyone in the top 100 would do, he is not doing. Maps can effectively have different content on them, and that content will be signified by icons on the map. So it could be a map which has an expedition in it, a breach in it, or it could be corrupted. Elon starts looking through the atlas, and he finds a map with, I kid you not, 4 things on it.
There are 4 things there. So this one has the real risk of dying.
4 things. What are those things?
God, dude. 4 things. It's 4 things, dude.
You can't just write this off as him being lazy and trying to put it in layman's terms, because this stream of him flexing his Path of Exile 2 achievements isn't made for, you know, your uncle or something who's a big Elon meat swallower. This is like specifically catered to gamers. So it makes no sense that he would just write that off as just 4 things. And also, his settings make no sense for someone in the top 100. No loot filter and all of the basics still on. That's how I play. And I am nowhere near a top player in Path of Exile 2 at all. It doesn't work. That excuse of him just being lazy, it doesn't work. He could not achieve what he has in Path of Exile 2 with these settings and the way he approaches the game. It's clearly just not him that has got the character to this point. He doesn't know what those 4 things are, which is why he calls it that.
He then goes on to say, oh, kid you...
This is max difficulty on hardcore. If there's a way to get higher difficulty, I don't know what it is, but this is everything maxed out.
Path of Exile has boss fights and end-game bosses, which are quote-unquote difficult battles, which Elon actually did do in one of his streams, where he just went into the end-game boss and died repeatedly to it. Maps are just farming. You go into maps and you farm them for loot and experience. They're not the most difficult battles, and I don't know if he's trying to deceive people watching a stream into thinking that he's doing some insanely hard thing, whenever he's literally doing something you do to effectively grind or farm.
Listening to Elon talk about Path of Exile 2 is like listening to the out-of-touch writers in CSI, where they'd have things like, yeah, I have all the top scores in every MMORPG ever. I am elite noob slayer. Like, when they try and relate to gamers, that's Elon with Path of Exile 2. It's such a weird thing to lie about, because this isn't a cool thing to anyone that's not already playing Path of Exile 2, but anyone who plays the game would immediately recognize he's just making shit up and doesn't actually know what he's doing or saying. And it's just classic Elon. This is a max difficulty Turbo XL Super Arcade. In fact, I'm the only one that's unlocked this difficulty setting, and I just wish it was a little bit harder, because for someone of my intellect, it's just a bit beneath me. But yeah, this is maxed out difficulty on hardcore. You can see I'm breezing through it. I wish I could increase the difficulty a little bit just to stimulate myself a bit more, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm just too good for it. Like, the way he talks about this game, while clearly being clueless on it, is actually infuriating. I can't fucking stand it.
And Elon Musk starts going over his gear.
This is a great staff, but it's only a level, 62 staff.
His weapon is, I kid you not, one of the best, if not the best staffs on the entire hardcore trade league. You cannot even buy it. Insane weapon.
Not only does Elon have a staff that you can't even buy, but it's so good that second best one, which is missing 2 of what makes a staff so powerful for an invoker, which is the crit and crit bonus, is still 20 divines, and that's obviously very expensive.
Here I am, like, level 95, but my staff is only level 62.
That is something that you learn pretty early on into the game, that the actual level of gear isn't the most important part about it. That's just the requirement to equip it. Quinn gave an example that one of the strongest, most meta builds at the moment uses a weapon that is level 1 requirement. A level 1. If Elon Musk had that on his stream, he would have probably blown a fucking gasket. He would have had a conniption, thinking that his boosters were doing a bad job. But they're doing such a good job that it has become blatantly obvious that Elon is not the one behind it at all. His weapon is nuts, yet he is fixated on it being level 62, thinking it's beneath him because he's a much higher level. He doesn't grasp the concept that it's not the level that makes the weapon good, it's all of the blue stuff there. You can't reach this point in the game without that basic understanding. You just can't. Like, he's talking like he needs to upgrade his weapon soon. Like, yeah, I need to get myself a better weapon, you know, one that reaches my potential at level 95. But for now, this is getting the job done. I'm able to do all of this with such a low-leveled weapon. It's fucking insanity.
My helmet is level 56.
Int, lightning, and chaos resist. Okay. It's only 56.
Amulet level 61. Ring is only level 48, 49. At least a level 75 jacket.
It's a jacket with 6 things. Yeah, tell us how bad the item that only drops from the highest difficulty of the hardest boss. Just tell us that it's only level 52. Did you find this at level 52? That's impressive.
Level 52 here.
They can only ever be level 52. Bro, Elon Musk is a fucking fraud, bro.
Pretty low level compared to my character level, but it seems to work pretty well. In softcore, you can get much better equipment.
Seems to work pretty well is an understatement. He is a fucking force of nature with this gear. He is beyond juiced. The actual pilots of this account have done an extraordinary job of making an absolute deity with this gear here. And yet Elon can't recognize that because he's not the one that did it. He only mentions the item's level, the least important part about items in the game. And once again, the excuse of, oh, he's just being lazy and he's trying to put it in layman's terms so people can understand. People know, like, level 62 versus level 95. Well, no, because that doesn't work because the 62 is extremely good regardless of him being level 95. He could be level 1000 and that level 62 weapon is still going to be fucking unbelievable. Like, he just doesn't understand how the game works. He just doesn't. Like, if he didn't want to go into detail on everything for his gear during the stream, that's fine, but he is actively saying that the gear isn't really good because of its level, which is so false, it's laughable. That's why he is being giggled at by both Crip and Quinn during this, because he is beyond clueless as to what he's even looking at and what he's talking about. And from his gameplay, it seems he doesn't even really know how to play the game itself either. I would wager a guess he's maybe spent a couple of hours actually playing the game, but only, like, clearing maps. I don't think he has ever picked up a piece of fucking gear in his life or worked on a build or anything at all. I don't think he even knows how to use, like, skill gems or support gems or anything. I bet if you asked him to bring up, like, certain things, like explain why this gym is where it is, he would have no clue why. If he brought up his skill tree, he would have no idea what's even on it. And, like, if you asked him about trials, he would hit you with big fucking question marks or just ignore it and move on. He doesn't know the game. And he proved it with this live stream here. But the question needs to be asked, why? Why even lie about this in the first place? Again, this isn't something cool to people who don't play Path of Exile. But anyone who plays Path of Exile is going to recognize that you're a fraud. This is not your account. If he was honest about it, saying like, hey, I tried Path of Exile, I really liked it, but I don't have time to grind it, so I paid people to grind it for me, I think people would have a little bit more respect for that, as opposed to him cosplaying as one of the top players, pretending he's the one actually putting in the work and doing it, when he's definitely not.
And if you needed any more proof that Elon is 100% boosted, he was playing the game today inside of maps, blasting, while simultaneously on a X space.
Yeah, RIP. So Elon's account, Percy, did die, and in hardcore that is permadeath. And I'm not sure if it was Elon that died on it, or if one of the people he paid to boost it made a mistake while grinding. I'm not sure. But I love the idea that it was Elon who bit the dust on it and bought the farm, because the people that actually put the hundreds of hours into getting this account so juiced out the wazoo are probably fucking furious. Like, they set Elon's maps aside, which are very easy maps for him to clear for the sake of flexing on Twitter with this account that they're actually putting the work into, and yet somehow this bumbling buffoon still finds a way to die on this overpowered character, just reverting all of their hard work to zero. It's just a beautiful thought, because they set aside easy maps for him. And maybe he got a little too big for his britches. Maybe what happened is he saw all the people, you know, calling him out for obviously not playing this game. He's like, okay, I'll put on my big boy britches and I'll do some hard content, and immediately just gets fucking washed. Like, just actually rinsed. I'm very excited to learn how exactly this account perished, because I feel like he'd probably mention it, you know, like, what happened? What went so wrong? But yeah, I wanted to talk about this a bit. It's such a weird, stupid thing to even lie about in the first place, and yet here he is, telling blatantly obvious fibs. He's got all the money in the world and all of the insecurity imaginable. He has this desperate, insatiable appetite for unconditional love from everyone, and in this pursuit makes everyone hate him through being just a lying cringelord. Like, this is such an unnecessary lie to even tell. He just wants to be viewed as the smartest person ever graced this fucking space rock that we live on, and the best at everything he even attempts to do, even when he's just not. He could have actually probably scored a ton of brownie points with gamers by saying, hey, Path of Exile 2 is a really good game, I'm learning it right now, watch me stream the early game content. And people probably would have actually really applauded that, because he's playing it on his own two legs here. He's playing and learning it, and that could have been a really easy way to relate to gamers. Like, hey, this game's great. I'm going to start learning to grind it. I'm not very good right now, but if you want to check out my early game, here's the stream. And I bet it would have been received far better than this dog shit. He is poorly playing an account that has never actually been piloted by him. But it's an account with a lot of prestige because it's so high ranked, and that is like the most appealing thing to Elon. It's just, it's nonsensical. He's so fucking cringe, it's crazy. That's about it. So, yeah.
The word fantastic is defined by Merriam-Webster as meaning excellent. It's used to express that something is really good, even great, like Tony the Tiger says. But this definition no longer holds any meaning in my eyes. When I see the word fantastic, forevermore I will now only think of the scam game company Fantastic, the absolute clowns responsible for the day before. It is a never-ending disaster. The rain won't stop falling, but it won't wash away the tears as players who have expected that this game to be good for over a year find out that they were the victims of a giant fucking scam. So Fantastic HQ posted their official statement today where they said this. They dropped this stinky bombshell. Today we announced the closure of Fantastic Studio. Unfortunately, the day before has failed financially and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off debts to our partners. The game has been out for 4 days and they're already throwing in the towel like, it's over. It's done. We've lost all of our money. It's kaput. And it is an absolutely revolting pile of garbage. But it's only been 4 days. I've never seen a studio give up this quickly. It really just seems like a convenient excuse to close up shop and run away and hide because of all of the shady business they'd been up to over the last year or so. But anyway, we invested all our efforts, resources, and man-hours into development of the day before, which was our first huge game. We really wanted to release new patches to reveal the full potential of the game, but unfortunately we don't have the funding to continue the work. It's important to note that we didn't take any money from the public during the development of the day before. There were no pre-orders or crowdfunding campaigns. We worked tirelessly for 5 years, pouring our blood, sweat, and tears into the game. At the moment, the future of Day Before and Prop Night is unknown, but the servers will remain operational. We apologize if we didn't meet your expectations. We did everything within our power, but unfortunately, we miscalculated our capabilities. Creating games is an incredibly challenging endeavor. We're grateful to everyone who supported us during these difficult years. It's been a fantastic journey over the past 8 years. And then they go through their resume there. So the reason they keep driving home the idea that, hey, we didn't take any money from anyone during the long time of misleading the public into what we were actually working on. We didn't take any money. Thus, we can't possibly be misconstrued as some kind of illegitimate business or a scam. But there's many other ways you scam people besides taking their money directly. Like, you did inadvertently end up taking people's money through false advertisement. You did technically scam them because you advertised an open world MMO game, you advertised so many things that aren't in the actual game you released, and so many players still thought that's what they were going to get with your package. So you did still take their money eventually, even though it wasn't crowdfunded in the beginning. You still ultimately did scam your audience. But anyway, I want to break down the whole situation around this studio as well as the day before, and also there's a little bit more that's going on here besides just the closure of their studio that I'd like to talk about. I'll get into all that in just a moment. First, I want to talk about Opera GX real quick. Big thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. Opera GX is the best browser available, period. I've talked about it many times, but it is the truth.
Unlike other browsers, it's not a resource hog, so using Opera is never going to like tank your performance or anything like that.
Don't get fucked by your RAM! Keep that shit under control!
Everything is super convenient with Opera because you can just have everything pretty much integrated directly into the browser, like your messaging apps, Discord, Facebook Messenger, Instagram. But there's also just so much you can do with it to customize it to your personal tastes, thanks to GX mods. You can create something entirely unique and original, or you can choose from some mods that already exist on Opera, like the Eric Andre mod.
Customize sounds, wallpaper, colors. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Another fun feature is the GX Corner, which can keep you up to date on upcoming video game release dates as well as the best deals around, so that way you can find the optimal spot to shop for the upcoming game. It's just so many fun features that Opera has. I highly recommend using Opera as your browser from this point forward. You can click the link in the description below to get started, and thanks again to Opera for sponsoring.
Get Opera GX!
Now, I'm just going to break down the basics of this if you haven't followed this story. It's something I've talked about for about a year now, and the game just came out, so it's being talked about again. I also just made a video on it. But the day before was Steam's most wishlisted game. It was a series of trailers that were advertising a product that never actually existed, and the developers, their studio, is called Fantastic. Thus, they're responsible for the most misleading marketing I've ever seen. That would be like me trying to market myself on Tinder as being 6'5". Like, you can't really tell in a lot of the photos, but eventually someone's going to find out that I'm not that tall. And that's exactly what happened with this game. Everything they were showcasing, this open world zombie game, never actually existed. So what happened is, what did release 4 days ago is this fucking mess, this wonky piece of shit that is unplayably bad. And it's clear that they never ever had that product they were showcasing for a year that people were so excited for. Now, I have a working game theory on what exactly led to all of this. I truly think Fantastic as a studio made all of these trailers to generate as much hype as possible to get like an audience hooked on their idea, their concept, to try and sell it to investors, to get a lot of investor backing behind it. So they go through this nefarious plot, they do get a ton of people excited for the day before, most wishlisted game on Steam and all that, but maybe no investors ever bid. Maybe they never received any investor backing, so then maybe they felt as though they were pressured at that point. They had their ass held to the fire. They have all of these people demanding a game that they don't have and they don't have the ability to make. And perhaps they were fearful of a potential lawsuit for what they were doing. So then they cobbled together this piece of shit in their colon and poop it out onto Steam 4 days ago, and the rest is history. It's bad. Everyone hates it because it's really, really bad. And now they feel as though they can comfortably wash their hands of this whole chapter of the book and walk away without being in like legal trouble or anything like that. That's what I think happened, because I have no other explanation for why they would make a fake trailer, make fake trailers for a game that they weren't actively making and never were actively making. It doesn't compute. If this was a Kickstarter thing, then I'd get it. Their whole plan was to scam people by getting a ton of money in this game they weren't making. Like, that happens all the time on Kickstarter. But here, they weren't making money throughout this process of, like, misleading people. So what the fuck was the point? I can't quite figure it out. So this is the best theory I have for it. Now, anyway, that's kind of the whole breakdown in a nutshell. Now, I definitely want to mention that the game is no longer available for purchase anymore, apparently. So everyone who's got the game has a rare gem on their hands, because you can't buy it anymore. They closed the studio and they closed access to the game, which makes sense because how could they keep the game open if the studio's not there? Where the fuck would the money go? It'd just go into like an endless void. But it seems as though the goal for this group of goofballs is now to erase the day before from the internet entirely. To wipe its presence, just poof into the night, vanish, so people could move on and forget, and they could all go to their next big scam project, perhaps, because that seems to be the direction that they're trying to go. And also, it's worth mentioning, when the day before released, they themselves posted this bullet point list of very odd things. This is just a really fishy thing that went up, and it immediately sounded some alarm bells for me. On stream, I even said to one of the players, well, I didn't say it to him. There was a player in my day before lobby who was like, man, I can't wait for the updates to really smooth out this game. I said that that's never happening. I knew this game was never going to be updated. Like I mentioned, this feels as though they put it out because they felt they absolutely had to and they had no other choice but to produce something tangible. And now that they did, they run away and can pretend it never happened. And this bullet point list is the main thing that made me feel that way. So it's like, to our future player who will dive into the game on December 7th, we made this for you. So like almost a little victory lap, you know, it's a celebration together. We'll continue improving the game and adding content. That didn't age well. It didn't even make it a fucking week before they put her down, took it behind the barn. They then have a bunch of mumbo jumbo to the haters. To a person who didn't believe in us, we made this game for you too. We accept any kind of criticism and don't hold a grudge against you. Before we continue moving forward together, kindly allow us to note a few things. Please forgive us for not doing the best marketing and teasers. We learn something new and improve ourselves every single day. Jesus. You made teasers and marketing for something that never existed. And they also copied quite a bit of things from those as well. Please don't accuse us of scamming. That's not true. We didn't take a penny from anyone. Literally begging people to just stop calling them Scam Game, even though they are Scam Game Studio. Like, this is still a scam. Please don't accuse us of asset flip. That's not true also. Our team worked day and night for 5 years to make our dream game a reality. Which is also not true because the actual fucking city map is an asset. They used assets. Like, I don't know why they're just blatantly lying about it. And then please don't underestimate our work. It wasn't easy. We are like you. We worked hard. And we're incredibly happy that our game will finally see the light of day for everyone to explore. Saw the light of day for 4 days. It didn't even make it long enough to learn how to crawl before you gave up on it. Well, it was always the plan to give up on it, clearly. I think that was designed from the beginning. They got a huge influx of cash. I think they had like a peak player count of like 30K. That's a lot of money. Like, that is actually a lot of money that they got up front for this fucking game, this pile of shit. So they did make a pretty penny off it and then bounce. They just said, we're out. The whole thing is so scummy. I think everybody knew this game wasn't going to get any real support from this team. I think all of us were surprised they even put something out to begin with. That was the biggest shocker about any of this, that they actually produced something, even though it was barely functional and absolutely horrid to play. The fact they made something was such a surprising twist. But yeah, everything else besides that is not surprising. Them closing immediately after this comes out, after getting some money from the gamers, that super expected. I didn't think it'd be 4 days. I thought they'd close it after like a month or so of hosing people down and maybe like drip feeding a couple of meaningless updates here and there, perhaps, like maybe. I didn't expect it to be this quick, but yeah. That's kind of the whole story here, and I feel like that's probably where the legend of the day before ends. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah. Yeah, I know you're staring at the blueberry stain on my white shirt. What's the big deal? It's called being human. What, and you're so perfect? You've never made a little whoops-a-daisy, a little accident on your shirt while eating some blueberries? What are you, the berry brigadier or something? Never spills? Wow, I'm so proud. How impressive. Just get over it, tough guy. Anyway, though, what I want to talk about today, but not in too much detail for fear of some kind of legal repercussions for talking about it, what I'd like to cover briefly, vaguely, is the Game Freak hack that just happened. Probably one of the biggest leaks I've seen since the Insomniac moment, where pretty much everything Insomniac is and has been working on came to light. Something similar, not quite to that level, just happened with Game Freak. And since I've been gnawing on Nintendo's teats for a little bit here, baring my fangs, letting them know that I'm not happy with Nintendo's recent behavior, a lot of people are wondering why I haven't been talking about this more, because I've been on Nintendo like fart on poop. And I haven't talked much about these leaks. The reason's pretty obvious. I don't mind poking the sleeping bear occasionally playing, like Pokemon mods for TCG Simulator, or making fun of and insulting this company for their greed and downright nefarious evil practices. But when it comes to leaks, it's a little bit different. I've covered leaks in the past, like when Suicide Squad Bore the Justice League Kill the Franchise came out. There were some leaks before it where it showed like UI as well as a little bit of gameplay. And I talked about that on stream and even had like a little clip in a video. Both those pieces of content got blasted. So I had to redo the video and take down that stream to get rid of that stuff. It wasn't a strike or anything, they just got taken down. They got blocked. So it is something that is taken seriously, and that was for Suicide Squad. That doesn't hold nearly the same amount of water that Pokemon does. And Nintendo is litigious and petty. And they are always out for blood, just hunting for any excuse to fuck someone in the face. It doesn't matter. Like how tiny or trivial something may appear, Nintendo will go hog wild with it. They would probably go perform a vasectomy on a man if they found out he posted deviant art that was unflattering of Princess Peach, just out of spite. They protect their IP with an iron fist, and they have no qualms about doing some dirty deeds to keep it under their paws. So a breach like this, a hack, a leak like this, is a huge deal and something they're taking very seriously. And I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about or show from this, because I don't know how vengeful Nintendo will be. So I'm going to try and tiptoe around like specifics and instead just talk about the basics, because it's huge. Not only did they get all kinds of like top secret projects that are being worked on and code names, they got real names of employees and tons of information about the actual people that work there. It is a huge breach. And the biggest thing that's spinning from this that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of now is there was some lore, which is a term I'm using very loosey-goosey for this, lore around some Pokemon they found. And the biggest one that had people raising an eyebrow wondering what kind of fishy business is going on at Nintendo for this was around Typhlosion. There were other stories with other Pokemon that not even Tumblr's weirdest fanfic writers would have ever even thought of, because they're just so fucking odd. Like, a couple of them revolved around Pokemon impregnating humans. I don't understand what they thought they were cooking with that. That shit is foul. Like, not even deviant art would have made something to that level. Like in one of them I was reading, I don't want to get into specifics because I don't know how Nintendo's going to respond to this whole thing, but in one of them, a girl gets pregnant from a Pokemon. The Pokemon ends up getting stabbed by her friends and thrown into a lake, and then she throws herself into the lake, and as a result, her friends and everyone starts treating that Pokemon better. They stop stabbing and killing that Pokemon. But like, why are these Pokemon impregnating humans? So the Typhlosion one is probably the weirdest one. Like, that's why this one has become like the breakout of all of these, because it is peculiar. I've just gotta take you through this story though, at least the basics of it. So it begins with this, verbatim. A long time ago, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was unclear. What do you mean? How was there ever an unclear boundary between human and Pokemon? You can see where this is going, and it's fucking weird. Like, how was there ever any uncertainty? I know it became a big meme online with smash or pass Pokemon shit, but you have to keep in mind this is the official Nintendo stamp of approval as something they were almost going to use as an idea. Like in the leaks, there's a bunch of concept art and shit that never got actually used, and this is one of those components where this was something they were ideating on. This idea that there was a period in time where humans were fucking Pokemon. That is baffling. Anyway, though, the rest of the Typhlosion story goes that Typhlosion was a shapeshifter, it kidnapped a girl, kept going out to get berries, they'd eat berries and fall asleep together, and eventually they had a child together. And one of the quotes is, "Your father's looking for you, but you are my wife. I will have to fight him." So the Typhlosions gaslit this girl into staying with him and having a child together. And then the girl's like, "Don't kill my father. If you kill my father, how could I stay with you? You're a good person. Don't kill him." Eventually Typhlosion's like, "Okay." And then the girl's like, "You need to let yourself be killed by my father." And he's like, "Okay, goodbye." And dies. He gets killed by the father. And the half Pokemon, half human child that the girl carries from the Typhlosion is subject to ridicule and disgust from the village that she's from. Eventually, after being teased for so long, her and the child vanish into the forest, and the story concludes with, "And so people came to understand that Typhlosions are half human beings." Wow. That's one of those moments where the fucking Twilight Zone theme plays right there at the end, or like the Saw theme right at the end with the crazy twist moment. It is bizarre. And that's only like the smallest piece of these leaks. That's just the one that I know a lot of people have latched onto because of how weird and wacky it is, but the leaks are huge. The amount of information that they got from Game Freak through this hack is crazy. I have no doubt whoever instigated this, whoever actually like orchestrated this hack, will be found dead soon. Nintendo will not leave them breathing. Nintendo, of course, is very litigious, like I mentioned, but in a case like this, I feel like they are going to go the extra mile and actually execute this person publicly. They will probably put this person and broadcast it on every platform. They have a fucking special Pokemon Unite season event for it where they kill the hacker. Like, they are probably so mad and trying to explore the most extreme options to get this person. I am super curious to see how the rest of this plays out because it is a big leak. I haven't talked about the big stuff, but if you've read up on the leak, you've already seen some of it. So, you know, I did want to at least speak on it a little bit. I'd love to be able to talk more on it, but I don't want to get in trouble with Nintendo because I think they're probably fuming right now and they might just start lashing out at anybody even loosely covering the leaks. So, that's really about it. See ya. Dreamworld, the scam MMO alpha is here. This game looks great. Reminds me a little bit about IMVU. Running in a full 140 FPS. The way that the creators envisioned, baby. Hold on, give me 1 second. This was a Kickstarter. The last game you'll ever play. What a horrible... If you put money into a Kickstarter that says the last game you'll ever play, you're a fucking idiot. You pretty much deserve to be scammed. Are you fucking serious? I can't find its Kickstarter. Can someone just tell me how much it raised? $64,000. $64,000? Let's see what people saw here that made them want to put $64K into it. I've been saying for years, Kickstarters are the dumbest things that you could put money into. They very rarely ever even come out, and when they do, they're usually not good. Wow, look at it go! I'll never need to play another game again! All my friends are here! This reminds me of one of those old Windows 95 games. There's even frame rate issues in their fucking trailer.
We want to create the world with the most freedom possible. If you see a tree and you want to cut it down, go cut it down. If you see dirt that needs digging, go dig that dirt. If you see a mountain that needs leveling, take that.
So, like every other game that comes out like in the last 5 years.
Waist high. And my fiance left me soon after.
Jesus Christ! What does this have to do with Dreamworld? What the fuck is going on?
And then Gary quit his job, and we added features every week, and we worked every waking hour. And then Dreamworld went from small white box test level to medium-sized island to a massive world where players could run around.
So this is a bunch of like asset store pieces put into a world, like every other Steam scam.
Incredible, wild ride.
I've played so many Steam new releases. This is exactly the same thing.
This is only the beginning.
Hi, I'm Garrison.
Hi, what's up, Garrison?
I was working at Google, Facebook, and Apple,
wow.
and I left to come work on Dreamworld. Zach has always had this idea of a single.
Why did you quit? You didn't have to.
Game world. Dreamworld will be the largest multiplayer game ever.
Whoa, that's a big claim.
Thank you so much for being a part of this Kickstarter
I don't know about that.
Part of Dreamworld.
All right.
And we'll see you in Dreamworld.
I see why people put money into it. This looks good. I'm sure they get to it in the next Kickstarter video, but I bet Steve Jobs came back to life to invest in Dreamworld. Okay, now let's see what happened. Now that I'm caught up on the lore. This really has everything a gamer needs. The only problem is at some point you're going to have to go get food and take a piss, which means there's going to be time you spend away from Dreamworld. That's really the only flaw I can see. Look at this, he even has negative 214 billion shit particles. Dog shit loaves. Whatever this element is.
Many YouTubers, in fact,
I'm so sorry to do this. Is that true, Peter? There's a vid by his ex-fiance where she watches his Kickstarter pitch and exposes how much he left out. This is nutty. Where can I find that? Why I broke off my engagement. Why am I involved with the Dreamworld scandal? What the fuck is happening?
I ended my engagement about 8 months ago. I
Yeah, I
haven't
heard.
talked about it on the internet.
It was real rough. He made a shitty game. It was bad.
I don't need the public internet validation around.
Whoa! What the fuck? That's what it's all about.
I didn't want to
Internet points. What do you mean?
However, to me, I'm like, what? I'm the ex in this situation. Like, why
Thanks
am
for Prime
I
Willpower.
being involved at all in any way? Why? So
You breaking his heart led to him scamming people, it seems.
There are
So,
many people
you know.
out there explaining. He says we were struggling to pursue our aspirations. I was doing fantastic. Thank you very much.
Classic.
You're just a talent.
I had a feeling he was lying.
I was able.
But did you ever stop to ask how he was doing?
Interesting job at this point. Was fully supporting
Come on.
myself.
He was hurting.
He was literally multiple months into already developing this before I broke up with him. He was in the midst of
truth
when I broke up with him, and me breaking up with him did not affect that.
Did it look like shit back then too?
Honestly, I had already made up my mind to at least call off the engagement before I then found out.
I'm learning so much about this
now
guy
seen as,
for some reason.
The main reason I broke up with
Okay.
him. It's not the main reason, but it majorly affirmed my position to break up. So
I want to break up with him now, and I'm not even dating him.
Go back. Couldn't resize the ring to fit my finger because it would have entirely melted. The exact words from the jeweler were cheapest option on the market. I confronted him about the ring. I asked if he knew it was fake, and I mean, to be honest,
This seems so
he had been scammed
not
buying
involved with
and
Dream
paying
World,
for a
but I'm
full-
invested
like a
now.
full-priced, and then when he called the jeweler after, I asked,
He
about
should have
it,
made the
he
ring
came to find out that the woman who
in
actually sold him
Unity
the ring
out of an
was
asset,
fired
and then
because
3D printed it.
She had actually. He also started saying things like, well, why do you deserve a diamond? Or why do I have to buy you a diamond? And things like that.
He's going full
But
Redditor.
again, it was really like California.
Well, why do you deserve a good MMO?
I flew back to New Hampshire early.
I'm starting to see the correlation
and he
now.
proceeded to not any of that.
I'm learning
I
way too much
never
about
even
this guy.
Consider going anywhere near a harder drug like coke. Like it is.
I didn't accuse him of being on
hilarious, though,
drugs.
that people are, but I can guarantee.
Yeah, I'll let that stay as a personal thing. I don't need to know.
not going-
So he has a history of being dishonest. So this is a newer video than this one, so I think chronologically the next chapter in the Dreamworld saga is this one.
Beyond that, a group of people have made it their mission to dig into every detail about the project and the people behind it, and it's an absolute nefarious shambles. The developers, if we can
I
call
know
them
so
that,
much
claim to be
about
backed
this
by
guy
Y
now.
Combinator, which is
So
a successful
much.
and
My fiance left me. My best friend Gary left me. My parents left me. We got so excited that I made a Discord channel and it left me.
Which, of course, neglects to mention that you bought her a fake engagement ring to propose to her at a red carpet event and being universally panned by even success
Hold on.
and being...
Gary put nipples on these things. What the fuck? He had to go in here and custom add these nipples. This is just a stock asset. There are no nipples on this normally. Superstar coder Gary came in here and said, put some fucking nipples on this. My man, I really think he is a superstar coder. He probably made Google.
Other players in the game are a floating sphere instead of an actual avatar. They tried to fix the absolutely terrible
I'm just
performance
shocked there's
by
other
adding
people
a
in the
kind of
game.
fog system. Essentially, a 13-year-old fresh out of his first IT class could essentially absolutely ruin this game for everybody involved by just telling the server whatever he wants to happen, and the server would say, yeah, you're right, that did happen. At this point, we couldn't even call it hacking or a hacker, because it's actually so easy that I'm pretty sure Cheat Engine could ruin the whole game out of the box. And that's
Holy
not all.
shit.
The things that... So if you invite people who they don't like, they also ban you from the server for just inviting people. So the worst part about
Jesus
this is if
Christ.
you back the game, the only place to get updates on the game is on Discord. And if you even ask a question or say something that they disagree with, they just ban you outright. They don't speak to you. It doesn't have to be anything serious whatsoever. You get banned, and then you can't even follow along with the game that you paid money for.
What? Hold on, I want to read some of these. This guy actually had children running his game's Discord? Is that even, like, legal? Would that count as child labor? Unpaid labor from kids to monitor your product's Discord and manage it? That's such a weird Gray area? What the fuck?
Because people thought that these children, because they're children, were just banning people for no reason. When in actual fact, it was Wolf and Gary. So not only did they recruit these kids,
well, let's not. We
under
don't
the
know
guise
about
of
Gary.
giving them
We
a
don't know if
job
it was
eventually,
him.
which is
64K is pennies compared to some Kickstarter scams. These YouTubers are milking this for their own content. What? So just because in comparison to some of the other bigger Kickstarter scams, this is no longer an issue because it's only 64K? Disagreed entirely. It's not the biggest Kickstarter scam in history, but it's 64K that came out of people's pockets that they believed in a project that didn't exist. Just because it's not a ton of money comparatively to other projects doesn't mean it's no longer important and shouldn't be talked about. And to the second point, it is good content at that.
Like 5 people behind me to all sort of like stop with me and like look around like they didn't know me. And I realized that they were running with me because they really liked the music. And they weren't.
That never happened.
Probably because they also realized that it was a safety hazard.
So obviously, as
Never
soon as
fucking
everybody
happened.
noticed, funnily enough, this isn't even the worst business that this fucking Melvin's tried to start.
Exit
Let's
Prime
take a look at
Disarray.
the absolute straight fire clothing brand that he started. March 2018, introducing Baron brand, another business to add to the pile. As you
Oh
can
my
see,
God.
some absolutely fantastic designs here. I mean, if I was 13 again and just saw my first episode of Naruto, I'd probably be super
Well,
into
hey,
this.
Naruto,
Perhaps if
Naruto.
they sold it in like a... But this is by a full-grown man, and this is his best attempt at a business venture.
It
he also, of course, designed
doesn't
a
look
website which is
good,
serviceable
per
by the
se.
standards of most people. But whenever I see a full-grown man making promises to cover the expenses of a 16-year-old girl moderator and promising work for them while they're making jokes about him being her dad, it's just weird. It's creepy, and even
Who
if
did
this
this?
is all that there is to it, it just makes me feel off about the situation. I have to question if this is being said like out in the open in a mod section where multiple people
Oh,
have
God,
access
not
to this that are
Gary.
not paid employees or anything like that. What's
Gary!
being joked about in private? There is now mainstream game press getting involved, journalists asking them for comment and interviews, to which they, of course, claim to be incapable
Yeah,
of doing so.
Caleb
as
brought
they
it up
just
to
don't
me.
have the
That's where I heard
time,
it from. He brought it up
despite having
today.
the time to sit on Discord.
He
and
doesn't even
instant
go on the
ban
internet. He doesn't have a
anyone who
fucking
asks any
computer, and he
questions
heard
they
about
deem
it.
to be too difficult to answer. Of course, they've got the time for that one.
What a fucking disaster of a game, though.
Amazement GGs work out how you can spot the scams, work out why they're trying
Oh,
to
this is just like a full all-encompassing thing. I can pretty much spot an MMORPG scam. If it's not made by a big studio, it's a fucking scam. Like 100% of the time. No 2-person team can make an MMO. Just can't fucking happen. I can't think of a single MMO off the top of my head that wasn't made by like a decently sized team ever. And functioned and wasn't dog shit. What a wild rabbit hole. Chronicles of Elyria, $8 million Kickstarter game? Oh, Elyria? $8 million game reveal. Did this actually receive $8 million in funding? $1.3 million. I'm assuming a company or like an investor came in as well, if I had to guess. Surprisingly, unlike every other Kickstarter game ever, they haven't just completely abandoned it. At least they're giving updates still. Okay. I'm interested. Let's take a peek. Well, actually, let me watch their initial pitch while we're here. Because they had a huge ask for this. 900K. Hyper J.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Walsh.
What's up,
owner
Jeremy?
of Soulbound Studios and creative director of the innovative new MMO Chronicles of Elyria. I'm here today to talk to you about the Kickstarter we're running for this new.
When a
innovative
game
which
says
is
that it's
redefining what people
innovative,
think of
I
as
know
fun,
that it's not.
possible and immersive. Hi, team.
What the fuck's going on?
Coming from a broad range of game companies such as Microsoft Game Studio, Sony Online Entertainment,
Can I just see the
Foxy
game?
Studio, Monolith, Bungie, Snowblind Studio, Pandemic Studios, and Liquid Entertainment made sure that in landscape really it's just require player skill.
Here we
the best
go.
example of that is our combat system, which we'll talk more about later.
Wow.
The fourth design pillar of and a lot of MMOs, they automate things such as fast travel and a mail system in
Oh,
order to
God.
make the game go by faster.
Yes.
What we want to do with Chronicles
Quality
of
of
Elyria is
life.
slow the game down again, give you an opportunity to travel from point A to point B, to stop and make camp.
That's a hard sell
and
on
to
me.
reintroduce those elements that allow opportunities for dramatic.
We
events.
removed everything that makes the game
Now that we have
fun.
a high-level overview,
where we permanently kill a character when they die of old age or of combat wounds or whatever. But a problem we ran into.
If they don't eat healthy, they
is
get
that
diabetes.
players want some feeling of continuity.
You have to really take care of your character in Elyria.
And then have to restart. It's just not.
One of the things I'm really excited about with Chronicles of Elyria, and one of the things that we're doing a little bit differently, is the introduction of a family system. The family system is so important that it's actually the third step in character creation after picking which soul you're going to use.
Maybe you go down the dark side and you find alcohol.
Today, the first thing you do during character creation
And
is
the family doesn't like that.
your class and race. I'm of no benefit to them, or if I do come along with
This is a really long Kickstarter pitch, I'll be honest.
You're dead weight, exactly.
This is like a lot more effort than most bad Kickstarters.
Family, which is the bolstering system.
And it doesn't even seem bad
the
so far.
The system works like this. If you're in game,
they are actually
estimated delivery
Not only can you
2016.
Walk, run, sprint, jump. You can also vault, climb onto walls, hang off ledges.
I see, it's been a while.
Climb onto the rooftops and do flourishy jumps if you want to. But the system.
Look at that shit. He's free running.
It's completely player skill based.
I saw that kind of shit in YouTube videos.
As well as
what happens when they don't deliver?
So
Nothing.
you could actually build up a huge reputation.
There's no obligation for them to even deliver anything ever. A lot of them don't.
And then you can also set up a.
Okay.
Those are
this is a lot to take in. Let's just see what we actually ended up getting. This pitch seems like one of the most ambitious titles I've ever heard. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere at the 15-minute mark they introduce a system that allows you to literally import your real soul into the game and live out the rest of your life in Elyria. So let's see what we actually ended up with.
This is a story about a game that claimed to give players the freedom they wanted, freedom to live, freedom to die. Hundreds of thousands of fans, 6 years of waiting.
Finally, a game lets me die.
Day, no one.
If you die in Elyria, you die in the real world.
In a fantasy land
I
where
believe
seemingly anything was possible. For many, it was literally a dream come true. So where did it all go wrong? Let's start at the beginning. April 28th, 2009.
2009?
The crowdfunding platform launches. September 20th,
I was gonna say.
Or at least the first instance.
Jesus Christ.
October 10th, 2012. The Game Developers Conference. Star Citizen is announced.
Yo, it's the one.
Ever presented.
That's like a $300 million crowdfunded
on a scale
piece of
beyond
shit.
Anything we'd ever seen. September 18th, 2015, the first ever screenshot of Chronicles of Elyria would be shared on the company's Twitter timeline.
Look
at
at that
the
beauty.
is already beginning to grow, giving the company anywhere from $5 at the lowest level of contribution to $10,000 for the King or Queen package at the top level. Each package would allegedly come with an array of goodies to tempt in the potential backers, ranging from a wallpaper and access to the newsletter at the lowest end, and a literal kingdom to rule over in the game at the high end. For $10,000, you could own your own kingdom. And of course, you're probably wondering if anyone would pay to be a king or a queen. They did. 4 of them.
And now they're
financial
very
success was
unhappy, I
received
bet.
Mostly positively. Project funding will continue on our site, chroniclesofelyria.com, after the Kickstarter ends, starting June 6th. We will offer the ability to upgrade your
sounds about
existing
right.
pledge. When the website came up, it would feature a
Wow.
ticker which showed the exact dollar amount raised from the various products and perks sold on the website.
Holy shit.
And it would continue to tick by month after month as more fans of the genre caught wind of Chronicles of Elyria and became enamored with the idea of this unbelievable journey they would soon embark upon.
But why,
At this point of
though?
the story, we have to introduce a supporting character.
Just wait for it to
Exile.
come out and buy
A common
it.
payments. With this came an admission of neglect in transparency with the community that had supported the dream to this stage. The game was not progressing at the speed they had promised. The inability to attract world-class engineers to...
Let me see. What does this statement even mean? Second, we wrongly assume that having a kick-ass game design, rock-solid team of core employees and successful Kickstarter under our belt would immediately draw in world-renowned talent. What, you wanted, like, Logan Paul to promote it or something? Is it, like, what the fuck does that statement even mean? We continue to have only a single engineer from May until December of 2016. Alright. Well, that'll do it.
Alpha 1 would now...
They're
become
waiting
the
for
first
someone to
4
make the
months
game
of
for them.
2018. Skipping forward to January 12th, 2018, roughly
That's a
when
good
we would
plan.
be expect the game was still yet to be played.
Can we watch
by
some good
single member of the
Kickstarters? Are they
public.
all a scam
At
or
this
some
time,
actually
the
fine?
revolutionary tech solution that they'd announced as a
I'm pretty
partner
harsh on
is no longer a
Kickstarters for good
partner.
reason, but some of them
Spatial
do
OS being
deliver
the
and are
system that
good.
They had spoken so
I think
highly of and
Chivalry was
spent
actually a
the last
Kickstarter
19
game.
months working with as funding continued to gradually increase throughout 2017 and
Why?
2018. But there was something in the air.
They made
The game
almost
was
$1 million
considerably more and more
doing
flack due to
nothing.
release deadlines, lack of communication, and of
Holy
course, an
shit.
increase in worrying crowdfunding events. The cracks were already beginning to show. The official channels for communication, the Discord, the forums would become increasingly hostile, and more people were either being banned or removing themselves. The updates were less and less frequent, the features
they're
showcased were
lost.
less
They don't get to own a
substantial,
kingdom in
and
Elyria.
we had not seen almost September 6th, 2019.
Let's
The
go.
first gameplay footage of Chronicles of Elyria seen
It
for
looks
over
so
2
good!
years, since
Fuck!
October 30th, 2017.
This is gonna change
It was a
everything.
disaster. The first video ever from Soulbound Studios to receive a negative like to dislike ratio since the announcing of the game.
This looks like some shit we'd play
will
on
be the
bad
turning
game
point in
nights
the
from
story
Steam.
for most. Comments flooded in
Oh my
asking what
God.
was going on. Why did the game look this way? I posted a video claiming that Chronicles of Elyria would soon cease operations.
Oh, now
as
how
a
dumb do you
studio,
feel now,
and the
huh?
game would subsequently be cancelled. With the pre-alpha, the players would finally get to test the
Oh,
game. The
let's
game
get
was
it.
finally inside. One more step and pre-alpha would be in the players' hands. The
Wow,
Settlers of Elyria
it actually
event would
looks
last
like
for 45
RuneScape.
days and allowed the
Like if
community to buy
RuneScape,
plots
old
of
school
land
RuneScape
within
was
the
made
game
in
world
Unity.
for between $65
Holy shit.
and $1,350 each. 20th of March 2020.
Wow.
The post opens. Soulbound
I feel
Studios
stupid for
will
being
hard
excited for
work on
Breath of the
gameplay
Wild
features and
2,
technology
when this
that
exists.
will deliver Chronicles. Pre-alpha was available to the backers, titled Trial of the Tested. This would turn out to be nothing more than a small obstacle course. Something many developers claim to be able to put together in a matter of days. or
What the
hours.
fuck is
The
this?
announcement
It's
posted
actually
several
RuneScape.
features,
They gave you an agility
jumping,
course.
Climbing, ziplining.
Oh my
and
God.
running. The post, of course, ended.
Jagex has a
reminding everyone that
lawsuit
the
on their
NDA,
hands.
The non-disclosure agreement was in effect. No one would be permitted to show footage of the gameplay.
It really
nor
does
be
look like a
allowed to
student
speak
game.
of the experience.
Like a
Quote,
freshman
"Small
at
playable
university."
Experiences are planned. As this was happening, a new player was approaching. A Discord appeared titled Class Action for COE. A Discord dedicated
Oh,
to one
baby.
thing, to get restitution for the community that had funded this
Wouldn't
project
work.
to completion and been delivered.
Literally
nothing.
doesn't work.
April 9th,
Kickstarter
2020,
scams never
a
get held
letter from
accountable.
Jeremy to the public, correcting a misunderstanding.
But I like the
It was
chutzpah.
never his intent. The blog post raised more questions than answered, talking about transparency, restoring the forums in a read-only
I
state.
can't believe
and
it didn't
the
come out.
Shoring of backers. 17th of August 2020, movement in the class action lawsuit Discord. Some backers had hired lawyers and the ball had started to roll. But the surprise
Oh.
here, the letters are dense in legalese, but both of them are uniform in their reply. Our clients did no wrongdoings. Our clients will not comply with your demands.
Oh, they're
So
playing
they are at
hardball.
impasse. Neither side willing to budge. The only solution, settle it in court. A
Let's
costly and
fucking get it.
time-consuming undertaking. 3rd of
In
February
Elyria's
2021,
court. You have to play
legal papers are
in-game
filed with a
at the
district
courthouse in
court. Everything
Elyria.
is now in motion. Until today, the 1st of April 2021, when I'm recording this video, not a single soul outside of Soulbound Studios has played Chronicles of Elyria or could attest to the authenticity of the project.
Thanks to Prime
No
Brady
one
and
ever
Resub
played
Smack.
this game, and many would be waiting patiently for the legal proceedings for clarity. The prevailing sentiment being that if Jeremy wouldn't share with us the real situation, perhaps they could force him to in court. This
Good
is
idea.
The Chronicles of Elyria.
It was great. He's been crushing it. We've watched like 4 Kira TV videos because he's covering so many MMO scams that I've become addicted to. And what remarkable timing, because 2 days ago they released another episode from Chronicles of Elyria. I am so excited. So we saw the pre-alpha. Actually, hold on. Before I do this, let's watch like a full let's play of it.
Shortcuts? Because my
Kill the
intuition...
guy yet?
What?
Oh no.
Oh, ooh.
Oh.
It's alright, we'll just ignore that.
That's a...
Flipping issue.
That'll be a
This
time
is the
time
skull
loss.
over and that skull hit on the left hand side. Raging River, right? Oh, he's looking at
Oh, there's some combat in here.
Oh.
In fact, it even looks pretty smooth. Oh wow.
Is he dead?
He's
Maybe.
dead.
He's
definitely dead.
Very
He's
suspicious.
He's playing a death animation.
Does that count? I think
I didn't watch him die.
You didn't watch him die.
Is that part of the requirements?
We're just gonna assume that he
I
died.
feel like you
then.
guys...
Alright, alright. And then... Is this the second or first one? Oh, this is the first one. Oh, fuck, Elyria is so beautiful. I wish our world could look like this. It's like if James Cameron made a video game. And then took a shit on it. Man, I'm about to start tearing up. Imagine spending $10,000 to own a kingdom in this shit. I think that would be worse than owning an NFT. Why would they even release this?
We're still making changes to the UI, so it might be a little small. See all the nameplates at once to make it easy to figure out where your
So they turned it
NPCs
into
are,
Roller Coaster
so you're not
Tycoon?
scanning
Like, what is this?
of your NPCs. So we do want to be able to give you a bird's eye view of knowing how healthy people are just by looking at them.
This does look like a game that
Digging down a
Nintendo
little
would
bit
have
more
shown
UI
off
now,
at their
let's go ahead and
Direct.
click on my all revive. It's kind of what we've got: the round neck with the straight leg.
Why are you
pants,
focusing on
the
clothes so
V-neck
much?
with no lace, short sleeve with
Does anything
baggy
happen in this
pants.
game?
If the time and see your settlement.
Are they just
And,
making this as quickly as possible
so
to
we've been
avoid
leaving
being
this blank,
sued?
But after a recent play session,
Like, why do
in our
this?
semi-weekly playtest, I
Just
think we've decided that
leave.
we want to, at the very least, add tools. At its current size, is
Wow.
currently using the same game data as one of the larger rocks, and that's because there's a lot of data and a lot of assets based on a game like this, and we have to make sure that they're all kept in sync.
Wow,
And in this case, it's
this
not.
is good.
And so when I'm done mining.
Alright, Chronicles of Elyria. I can sign up now to get nothing in return, I guess. Except be on Jeremy's mailing list. No, it doesn't look like you can keep funding it, which is great. I think this game looks great. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. It does look pretty good. You get to do nothing, I guess, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I can't even find anything about this. On their website, they're still advertising it as an MMO, but here it's not only not called Chronicles of Elyria anymore, but it's also not an MMO. Apparently it's like a village builder where you get to pick out your character's clothes. Is that like a fashion designer thing? How confusing. Well, I have no sympathy for the people who paid $10,000. Like, you pretty much deserved it. I don't know why you would blindly throw $10K into something on Kickstarter, especially when there's literally nothing to present. That was cool. Another good MMO, another Kickstarter classic. Yeah, it received $8 million total, and there was 4 people in particular on Kickstarter that backed for $10,000 because they were told they'd get to own their own village in the MMO. I don't even understand why you'd ever believe that, nor want that. I like that they're all MMOs. Yeah, you know, the reason they're MMOs is because that's the most marketable genre. Most people play an MMO or have played an MMO at some point, so it's just the most general genre to get as many people as possible. There's an actual reason that they're all MMOs.